Hi there and big welcome to a Tymna Thrasios TNT deck tech video. And a well needed and deserved one. You see, Tymna and Thrasios have been very successful in recent tournaments. As you can see here from pre-bans, we have 453 tournament entries. For those that are new to this channel, I do go into this webpage and look at various tournaments and deck lists, and I calculate the win rate for various different commanders and the different combinations of cards those commanders play. We will get to that soon in more detail. But what we can see here is from pre-bans when the dockside and Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus were legal. We have 453 tournament entries from the start of 2023, but then we have from post-bans 176 tournament entries, and you can see the big difference in win rate. But also a burst of popularity, as in a very short amount of time we've already achieved 176 tournament entries from Tymna and Thrasios. So the popularity vote amongst players are basically saying that, yeah, they believe in Tymna and Thrasios, and as you can see here, the data supports it as well. They are doing good. And it is a big difference, honestly, from 17.57 to 26.25. They were like really bad when dockside was legal, and they are really good now that the goblin is gone. But as some of you also know, and something I already mentioned in the beginning of this video, is that I also look at individual cards. So right up here we have total decks 176. Those are from new banned list when the dockside and Mana Crypt are banned, basically. And from those, we have a very small amount of players that have actually played ad nauseum inside their decklist, a total of 20 to the count, and an inclusion rate of, in the pie chart, 11.4, which is rather low. But also if you actually look up there on average win rate, in red you have 21.25 and a drop of -5% basically, so this is indicating that Adnos is not currently popular among the player population of Tymna Thrasios players, but those that have actually tested it, the very small amount, haven't been successful with it. But then we can find cards that are on the opposite position, basically Emiel the Blessed, that have an increase in the win rate by plus 3.75. So the reference number is the average win rate 26.25. Now the big reason why you wanna play Emiel the Blessed is basically because the Revi Imperial Practitioner, and as you can see there's a little bit more people who are playing only the Revi without Emiel. And a big reason for that is because Gaia's Cradle is pretty good. If you have the Revi, Emiel the Blessed, and Cradle in play, you can tap Cradle to generate, let's go, 4 green mana, use 3 of that to flicker the Revi to untap Cradle and generate infinite green mana and infinite untaps. With this you can cast Thrasios, activate him infinitely, and then win the game somehow. Another option people tend to go for are Kinnan. With Kinnan, and basically lots of mana rocks in general, you can make a lot of Thrasios activations, so there's a clean idea of why you want to do that, but also sometimes you want to combine Kinnan with Basalt Monolith. However, as you can see here, it doesn't seem to be that recommended or needed. There is a small drop in the win rate among those people who have been combining Kinnan with Basalt Monolith. You also have Swift Reconfiguration combined with Devoted Druid. Here as well you can see that there's a bunch of people who are playing Devoted Druid without adding Swift Reconfiguration. The basic trick is that you transform Devoted Druid into a vehicle, which means that it can't die with infinite -1/-1 counters on it because it's no longer a creature. If you turn it into a creature by the crewing effect, it will instantly die, so don't do that, but you basically generate infinite green mana with this. I should also just mention that Peer into the Abyss and Necropotence, similar to Ad Nauseam, aren't really doing great currently. So the only real big combo, besides Thassa's Oracle, that is basically an auto-include, more or less, everyone is playing Thassa's Oracle and Tainted Pact and Consult, but the big special combo that have been proven to do some good is Emiel the Blessed together with the Revi. But why is that working out great? There is a pretty good example and answer to this, and that's the One Ring. While we're actually talking about combos and potentially talking about the One Ring, I just want to throw out Talion here as the same concept, because this is a form of value engine. As you can see here, the value of Talion is a little bit smaller compared to, like, for example, the One Ring. The One Ring's win rate is in green, while Talion is in red, and as you can see, the player popularity vote is saying that it's not good. People are rather playing the One Ring than Talion inside their current TNT post-ban. We're gonna get back to the One Ring very soon, but first I wanna showcase another combo, and that is Mnemonic Betrayal. Now, this isn't a clean, typical combo, it's just a good card overall, but you get access to all of your free opponent's graveyards, and from that you usually sculpt a victory. Kinda easily in a mid-game. But back to the One Ring. A very important thing to actually mention is that the value from the One Ring isn't actually that good once you first look at it. For example, on turn 1, you're generating 1 card. On turn 2, you have accumulated a total of 3 cards, so you've spent 4 mana to draw 3 cards, which is rather bad. On turn 3, you've accumulated a total of 6 cards, and now it's starting to look kinda good. On turn 4, you're accumulating, on the 4th burden activation counter, you accumulated a total of 10 cards, and from this point it's starting to look really good. But if you have for some reason access to a Derevi Imperial Tacticianer in play, and the One Ring, then yeah, you're speeding that up quite fast. It is more or less similar to an ad nauseum. If you have 3 creatures that are connecting to an opponent's face, then yeah, you're going to draw a lot of cards with that ring. And that is in the end going to be something of a win con. So suddenly, if you have the One Ring and the Derevi in play, you have a win con. You have Caused Atnos. If you only have the One Ring in play, you have a decent value end. But the thing with Derevi is that it also combines pretty good with other combinations too. For example, Mana Vault. Mana Vault is a decent mana rock in general, and with Mana Vault and Derevi, each creature almost with Thrasios becomes a card draw Thrasios activation. Kinda. And it should be mentioned that this deck is already playing Tymna as the secondary partner commander, so you kinda wanna have creatures in general that are able to go to combat and connect to people's face. So it's kinda playing on theme here. But the concept of the One Ring and escalating the One Ring even further can be built upon. So you have things like manifold, or the keys in general, and if you have the keys and you have a Basalt Monolith but you don't have Kinnan, that's still pretty okay. And it's pretty amazing with the keys together with the One Ring. Now, I don't actually have any data on any TNT builds that have included any keys, because no one actually brought that to a tournament. I have actually looked at some combinations when keys are combined with the One Ring, and it actually looks pretty good. But I don't have a big data on it, so what I'm saying right now is that I have data on the One Ring individually doing good. I have data on Basalt Monolith and Kinnan doing mediocre. I don't have data on the keys combined with the cards you see here, but I'm speculating that it could be a good idea to experiment with, considering that the One Ring is already doing pretty good. And once more, I do think it is quite important to actually get the clock ticking on the One Ring. Like, the cEDH games are quite fast. Let's imagine that you have a really good game where you're getting the One Ring into play turn 2. That's pretty good. You activate it on your turn 3, you activate it on the turn 4, and you've totally drawn 3 cards so far. The problem is that this is kind of where the game is going to end. So the chance of you going to turn 5, where you're going to draw 6 cards, is rather low. But if you have a key that can, by the way, be found with Urza Saga, you can speed this up. Here we should also, of course, mention the school, which I think is an auto include if you're playing the One Ring. But apparently it's not. But as you can see, it's doing pretty good. And as Cradle is already part of the WinCon, and by the way, Cradle together with Thrasios is pretty amazing, I want to highlight Crop Rotation. If you have your ring in play, you can use Crop Rotation to find the school that can untap the ring. If you have a Derevi and maybe Emiel in play, you can use Crop Rotation to find Cradle, and boom, you win. And as you can see here from data, the crop rotation is very much recommended. And this is kind of going together with the concept of Cradle being something of an auto-include inside Tymna and Thrasios. Another card I really want to highlight is Seedborn Muse. Now, this is a card that with Thrasios usually wins the game in general. It's a very clean, like, I win the game in like 2 turns with this and Thrasios and a bunch of mana. But when you have the One Ring and Seedborn Muse in play, you win even more. Now, as you can see, the win rate is actually in red, but the drop is rather small and the popularity vote is rather big. So even though the win rate is in red, I still think that you should probably play Seedborn Muse anyways. I honestly think that if you're gonna choose among the One Ring or Seedborn Muse, I rather think you should choose the One Ring, because in my experience watching games and playing games, the One Ring is harder to interact with, while Seedborn Muse is easier to get rid of. Like, destroying a creature is easier compared to destroying an artifact that is indestructible. Like, the only thing you do here is that you bounce it, and then the opponent recasts it. So what is the big takeaway? What have we learned from this so far? In short, we don't have a huge amount of data yet. I think that we're going to get more and more. I think that 176 is going to increase quite heavily, because I think this is a current very popular tournament commander these days. Maybe not the most popular, but definitely something that is popping up a lot more compared to before. And it kinda looks like you're going into some form of mid-range game plan, where you can make the One Ring into a win con together with that Derevi that is already a good win con with Cradle and Emiel the Blessed. Even though we saw Kinnan and Basalt Monolith in red and Swift Configuration and Devoted Druid in red, I still think that the win rate didn't drop that much, or well, kinda much in this one, but I wouldn't be against anyone from still playing Kinnan, and I wouldn't be against any Thrasios player still playing Swift Reconfiguration with their Devoted Druid. But it is quite clear that this unicorn is onto something good here, and that you maybe should stay away from ad nauseum and instead try to look at the One Ring as a value engine that you can increase potential on, but also convert into a huge win con, basically. That's the data and the short picture of how I think Tymna and Thrasios, the TNT, should be in 2024 and continue forward towards soon 2025. Unless they print something wild and crazy, like a green dockside extortionist. In any case, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.